Once I got stopped, I sat on the edge of the bed, and I wanted to know whether she wanted to use the restroom, so that's what I was going to do. And then she started screaming. She just sat up and started screaming. And I was like, shut up. The more I told her to shut up, the more she screamed.
Okay.
And I don't need that because I wasn't supposed to have people in my truck anyway, so unauthorized and all that. So I just killed her.
Okay.
You got to consider after murdering too many people, that it was just an easy thing to do.
Once again, it's Murder and Mayhem Monday. Welcome back. My name is Franklin James, the serial author, and I hope you all have a mayhem-less week. Now, today we'll be examining the life and crimes of Keith Jesperson, better known as the Happy Face Killer. And there's a show on Paramount Plus called Happy Face, which details certain aspects of Keith Jesperson's life. And the actor who's playing him is Dennis Quaid. And the show is from Jesperson's daughter, Melissa Moore's point of view. But I want to explore his monstrous mind and discover how he became one of the most infamous serial killers of the 20th century, leaving a string of murders across the U.S. in the early 1990s. Now, Jesperson earned his moniker by taunting authorities with letters signed with a happy face. But who was Keith Jesperson beneath the surface? What turned him into a deadly killer? Was he born evil, or was he made? Let's unpack the chilling case of the Happy Face Killer, a man who left murder and mayhem in his wake. Now, Keith Jesperson's story begins in Chilliwack, British Columbia in 1955. He was the middle child in a deeply dysfunctional family, and it's likely he experienced what is known as middle child syndrome, feeling overlooked, overshadowed, like he didn't fit in, which can lead to potential emotional challenges. And accounts from his childhood suggest a classic trajectory often seen in violent offenders, such as abuse, isolation, and a need for control. In fact, his father was not only strict, but he was physically and emotionally abusive as well. He would frequently ridicule and beat Keith Jesperson. And this type of upbringing can instill feelings of powerlessness and deep-seated feelings of resentment in a developing mind. Now, by the age of 5, young Keith Jesperson exhibited violent tendencies. He started with small acts of cruelty like killing small animals, which is a significant predictor of future violent behavior. He also experienced social isolation. As a child, Jesperson was large for his age, which led to bullying. In fact, he almost killed 2 of his bullies. One he almost beat to death, and the other he nearly drowned. And from what we do know, social rejection and prolonged humiliation often develop into deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and resentment. Young Jesperson struggled to fit in and often withdrew, fostering a sense of alienation. Serial killers frequently exhibit this pattern: social rejection coupled with a growing sense of superiority and detachment from others. Psychologically, this period in Jesperson's life was crucial to his developing mind. And as a coping mechanism, many serial killers develop what's known as a paraphilic fantasy life, like having violent daydreams that become increasingly elaborate and reinforcing over time, fantasizing about their dark and twisted desires. Now, when Keith Jesperson was older, he became a long-haul truck driver, a profession that provided the perfect cover for his crimes. He targeted transients and sex workers. His first known murder was in 1990 when he killed Tanja Bennett in Portland, Oregon. Jesperson later claimed that Bennett mocked him, igniting his rage, which would be very triggering for someone who experienced a lot of childhood trauma, especially if it's centered around prolonged humiliation and social rejection.
Comments were made and different things, and an altercation happened, and I struck her. I actually had hit her in the face, and for some reason, I just kept on hitting her in the face, and because of that, I feared going to prison for slugging her in the face and causing bodily injury, and so I killed her.
And I'm sure he had antisocial personality disorder as well. Her murder was the result of a fragile ego. which is common in offenders with narcissistic and antisocial traits. Offenders like him crave dominance, but cannot tolerate any perceived humiliation. After his first murder, Jesperson reportedly felt a rush, an emotional high, and so he began his spree of beating, sexually assaulting, and strangling women. He would later describe killing as something he enjoyed, which aligns with psychopathy's core trait, lack of empathy. I mean, he strangled women to the point where they would lose and regain consciousness. He found it gratifying to apply pressure and then release it. It made him feel godlike. Their lives were in his hands, and he got to choose who lived and who died. To Keith Jesperson, he wasn't just killing, he was playing a game, and he was finally in control. He even wrote letters taunting authorities, and he liked watching innocent people get accused of his crimes. He liked getting all the attention and craved the spotlight because he likely felt overshadowed and overlooked during his upbringing. Again, that middle child syndrome. So, for once, because of his violent crimes, people were taking notice, and he was starting to feel seen. Jesperson experimented with different methods of murder. He wasn't just driven by a single compulsion, he was testing the boundaries of what he could get away with. He was a sadistic thrill seeker. Now, Keith Jesperson was finally caught after his girlfriend, Julie Whittingham's body was discovered alongside a Washington State road in March 1995. So his last murder was a little too close to home. It was someone that he knew, and he slipped up. Now, after he was questioned by police, he tried to commit suicide, but then ended up confessing. And his confessions were erratic. He claimed to have killed over 160 people and later admitted to only 8, which is a classic example of pathological lying and a desire to maintain control over his narrative. And these are hallmarks of psychopathy. And signing his letters with a happy face suggests a sadistic streak. He enjoyed knowing people feared him. It was all about asserting his dominance. It was less about remorse and more about creating a spectacle. And now he's serving 4 life sentences for several of his gruesome crimes. In the end, Keith Jesperson displayed all the hallmarks of psychopathy, such as lack of empathy, grandiosity, manipulation, and impulsivity. He derived pleasure from killing, which aligns with sadistic tendencies. His need for attention and admiration fueled his confessions and letters. He was a malignant narcissist. And unlike other serial killers, Keith Jesperson wasn't particularly cunning or methodical, but his profession as a trucker made it easier for him to find his victims. His downfall was his own arrogance. He killed because he enjoyed it. And like I said before, his last victim was a little too close to home. Keith Jesperson reminds us that serial killers don't fit one mold. His crimes weren't just about violence. They were about power, attention, and control. Understanding offenders like the happy face killer helps authorities better profile and prevent future cases. And it allows us to recognize these monsters that are hiding in plain sight. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. And I do ask that you stab that like button and subscribe. Leave a comment and let me know what you think about Keith Jesperson, the happy face killer. Share this video out there, hit that bell for notifications, and if possible, avoid mayhem.